Good evening, good morning, or good day to you. I hope you have a good start into the day or you had a good day. Today's topic will start a little bit negative, but I will pivot it to something positive. If you look at the state of the world we're living in, everything that is going on around us, it is quite reasonable to think that life can be very depressing, or it can kind of be mentally taxing. And I like to talk about mental health, and I think it is super important to talk about that and to kind of acknowledge the reasons why we might feel that way. And let's look at this a little bit objectively. Economics aren't great. I personally, as a freelance film editor in the film industry, feel it very clearly. Not maybe me at the moment, but the month before. A lot of my friends have no work at the moment. Everything is getting more expensive. There's still a war going on in Europe. The situation in USA, as far as I can tell from the news that I can see here in Germany, isn't great. In other countries, it isn't great as well. Then we have a lot of things going on social media where you can kind of think to yourself, oh, these influencers or these people or these celebrities or other important people, they are terrible. And while people are throwing around the word cancel that person or that person shouldn't be supported, there are enough examples that kind of give you the perception that the word or the term canceling this or that person doesn't exist. Especially in Germany, there's a couple of celebrities where you would think those people are terrible, and in some cases, even proven so to be terrible because there are there's a lot of evidence for them to be terrible, yet they are still here or are being supported. For example, there's currently, I have already admitted that I like reality TV. There is this huge reality TV show where there is this person in there that has been proven in court to have something extremely terrible and is now the winner of that show. And that kind of shows or is one of the proven evidence that I believe cancellation isn't there. There are so many examples where you kind of can think to yourself, oh, the world is terrible, or everything around me is kind of falling apart, right? Especially with younger people, I feel like they also have it really hard. They imagine working at minimum wage or starting out a job. You obviously don't get a good salary, but everything else is getting more expensive, and you don't know how to pay rent because also in Germany, there are no apartments that you can rent. So it's really hard to get a space to live in, whilst going to a supermarket is really expensive, right? Yet you basically earn either not enough or the same amount as you used to, with all age brackets, of course. But I feel like especially with younger people, I think it is more likely to feel depressed, especially also if you take into consideration environmentally issues, where it probably might be very easy to go downward in that downward thought spiral, thinking, oh, in 20 years, this earth is basically fucked anyways. So you kind of get pressure, and that is actually the reason that those examples that I just mentioned, and it's actually, from what I know, please don't quote me on this, but as far as I know, statistically speaking, the amount of people working at the moment is higher than back then. So I really don't like, or I don't condone the narrative that many people starting from my age, so 40 and up, so many, in air quotes, older people are saying, oh, the youth right now doesn't want to work. They're so lazy. And honestly, I don't agree with that at all. I feel like, when I was that age, I didn't work that great. Honestly, I mean, when I'm working a minimum wage back then, I honestly didn't care. I didn't care. When I was working at McDonald's, I did a good job, but I didn't kind of break my back over that job, right? So I feel like the narrative that so many, in air quotes, older people from my age and starting upwards, saying that the youth is lazy, I think that is a very oversimplified perception of that. I think there are so many younger people and kids that are very ambitious, and I think the saying something along the lines they're lazy is oversimplified and probably basically purely wrong. And again, I think we all have a hard time right now kind of coping with whatever's going on. And I feel like if you're younger, it's even harder on your mental state and just kind of dealing with everything that is going on. And remember, most of them in those younger ages, in that time when we were younger, were partying, don't forget that. They had to go through Corona and COVID. They didn't have the time to go partying. They didn't have the access to do the stuff that we did when we were younger. Now COVID is over. Economy is not great. And I just know so many kids that told me, I don't have money to go to a club. I don't have money to go drinking. It's so expensive. Buying a drink is now like 15 euros or something even higher. When I went to a party, buying a drink like a vodka Red Bull, for example, that was 8 euros. And now you pay like 15 or something along those lines. I haven't been partying in quite a while, but I do remember once when I went to a party 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, it was something like 15 euros or something. So yeah, I totally get that. Now, with all of that negativity, for this introduction, I think, what can we do about that? And I'm a huge advocate of the thought already many years ago. I started with that, and it's something that had always been in my mind is think globally, but act locally. And for me personally, it means that I want to be a positive force or a positive person in my area, in my close surroundings, starting from simple things. I mean, you remember that I'm currently walking that dog of my neighbor. She broke her leg. So it's not visible that she broke it, but she hurt herself a couple of weeks or months ago, and she's really scared of re-injuring herself in the snow. And I was like, yeah, of course, I walk your dog. And honestly, it's a lot of fun, stuff like that. Or I live in the suburbs, so there are many old people. And most of the time when I'm going to the grocery store, I do see some older people like trying to lock their water bottles into their trunk, right? And it doesn't hurt me to just say, hey, do you need some help? I can help you with that. I'm trying to be as nice as possible to service people. For example, here in Germany, I don't remember how it is in USA, but if you go to a public bathroom, there's usually a person in front of the door that cleans everything up. You are kindly asked to leave a tip, and they suggest something like 50 to 70 cents. And I'm like, that person has to clean up those messy toilets. Why not make them a good day? Saying hello to them, because most of the time people just ignore those people. And either because they don't respect them or in the hopes, oh, okay, if I don't make eye contact, I maybe don't have to pay those 50 cents, right? And I'm like, A, I say hello. B, maybe I can talk to that person. I mean, most of the time I have times anyways. So if I just go there and to a couple of sentences doesn't hurt anyone. And then I always leave a tip. Obviously, I'm not going to kind of claim that I'm like a great Samaritan and always leave like €5. No, but I do leave a little bit of tip, euro, €2 or something like that, right? Because I think that's an important job because I feel like not a lot of people want to do that. I mean, obviously, there are those people probably don't want to do that job either. So kudos to them that's not the right word. That sounds really stupid the way I kind of describe it, but I'm having a hard time to kind of put it in words what I feel in English. But I have respect for those people doing the jobs that are needed. And I'm not only talking about people in that industry, but also with waiters and waitresses. I see so many people that are being dicks about it with waiters. And yes, of course, there are sometimes waiters and waitresses that are not great at what they're doing. Let's be real about that either. But honestly, they do have minimum wage jobs. Usually you can be a little bit nicer. And more importantly, they bring you your food. I don't want to disrespect the person that handles my food, you know. So going back to the topic, for me, I want to be a positive person and helpful person with people that are around me. I cannot change the world. I cannot influence what's going on globally. It's not in my might. And more importantly, I was born and raised in Germany, but I always had an Indonesian passport. So I was never allowed to vote. And I got the German passport when I was, I believe 22, 23, 25, somewhere along those lines, which gained me the right to vote. And since then, I always voted. But as we all have seen in a couple of different scenarios, I always bring up, I don't want to bring up any politics in USA because that's a can of worms that I'm not going to open. But for example, Brexit. I think there are a couple of arguments where you could say that Brexit wasn't the best decision. And when that voting came on, at least here in Germany, I saw all of the news where people in UK were interviewed and everyone was like, okay, we need to vote to kind of prevent Brexit. And in the end, it didn't help. Brexit went through anyways. UK exited the EU. And I think people are regretting that now, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. But I mean, those are the situations where I kind of think, yeah, it's good to vote. But sometimes it feels really frustrating that, and I put this in really huge air quotes, I really do not want to kind of open up a can of worms here, but I do feel like the bad, in most cases, the bad kind of win. This is not to say still go voting. If you can vote, please go vote. We live in a free world, at least in many countries where we have the democracy and where we still can vote. And it's really important to vote no matter how pessimistic, realistic you might be. I think it's important. But going back, I mean, this is just to emphasize that I think, or I sometimes believe I'm just a small fish in this big pond. I cannot change anything globally as much as I maybe sometimes would like, but I can change or be a positive force locally. I can do as much as possible to help. I'm not saying join a NGO or whatever, or kind of do these big gestures, because let's be real, it's just like with sports, going to gym, vlogging. Like I always say, start small, and it's always those tiny things that make the lives of other people better, and always also that gives you a good feeling, because especially with older people, or if there are some kids, I mean, there's a situation here in the neighborhood where I know a kid that is being bullied, and where I don't want to go into that too much because I'm still thinking about that, where the situation in the family is not as I would think is good. Let's say it that way. And I'm still thinking about how I could help that kid, but I also know that it is a huge responsibility to try to help that kid. And I'm also the kind of person, if you want to help someone, you need to do it all the way, with all of the responsibilities that go into that, especially when it comes down to a kid. So yeah, I'm still thinking about that. That is something that maybe I need to go into in another episode. But what I'm saying is, try to start small, doing a positive thing around you. And with all those little small steps, you can change someone's, not life, maybe day, maybe that hour, or it's just a smile, just helping. I mean, also helping someone kind of pick up their groceries. I mean, when I was living in Hamburg, I was living right next to a subway station. And there were so many times where there was an old person with these grocery bags, and the stairs were really long from the subway, because that subway station, the elevator was always somewhat broken, or the old people was thinking, oh, that takes too long, and they were trying to climb the stairs. And I'm like, hey, let me help you with that. Just those small gestures make a huge difference in someone else's day, not necessarily life, but day. And I think it's also good for you to not forget, but maybe make your day a little bit better. I think it's, with everything that I say in this channel, when it comes to mental health, it's never about ignoring your problems, ignoring what's going on. It's always about kind of resetting your mindset, your brain. And with every single small gesture that is positive, you kind of reset your brain from that negative thought process, that negative mindset, and kind of, I don't want to go that far to say it heals your mental health, but it helps you a little bit. It kind of, and gives you a little bit of a boost, because again, it's all about kind of resetting and then looking at the problem from a little bit refreshed perspective. And also, I mean, this is going now a little bit to the other side. If you remember, I quit social media, or not quit, but I deinstalled Instagram from my phone, and I still have it on my laptop to answer DMs, but it has been so refreshing not to look at Instagram and seeing really stupid influencers, or I don't know. It has been really good thing for my mental health to just deinstall Instagram. I still doom scroll, but most of the time it's on YouTube. But I also on a good place to not watch that much YouTube, with replacing it with Audible, or watching movies, or reading a Kindle, or retro gaming. So yeah, I think it's, again, like I always say, about those small steps. The world is shitty. I know that. We cannot change it at the moment, but we can change what's going on around us, and maybe create a positive bubble and maybe a positive mindset for ourselves. All right. Yeah, that was my episode about that. Let me know your kind of thoughts about this in the comment section below. What are your like small positive gestures that you do maybe occasionally or maybe regularly, and that give you a good feeling and maybe reset those negative pressure thoughts that you sometimes have. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, maybe check out my video from yesterday up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here, and don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here. That way we see each other tomorrow. Thank you very much.